You're on a beautiful cross-country train journey. The autumn leaves blazing past panoramic windows, families settling into their seats, the gentle rock of the rails creating that peaceful travel rhythm. And then suddenly a voice shatters everything. "This is unacceptable! I paid for a ticket and I demand a private cabin." That's Karen Whitmore, 48 years old. Standing in the narrow aisle of coach car 2847 wearing a burgundy velvet blazer with a designer scarf draped like she's royalty, her auburn curls perfectly styled, gold jewelry catching the light. And she's pointing her coral manicured finger directly at James Chin, a conductor who's spent 30 years serving passengers with dignity and patience. But what happens next will absolutely restore your faith in humanity and justice. James stood there in his Navy conductor's uniform, his conductor's cap sitting perfectly on his salt and pepper hair, his badge showing 3 decades of dedicated service. And he looked at Karen with the kind of calm that comes from dealing with difficult people for half a lifetime, saying in his measured voice, "Ma'am, you purchased a coach ticket, which is what you're seated in. If you'd like to upgrade to a private cabin, I can check availability at the next station." But Karen, oh Karen, she wasn't having any of it. Her face turning red beneath all those layers of foundation, her voice getting shriller. "Do you have any idea who I am? My husband is a state senator. I will have your job if you don't move me to a cabin right now. I refuse to sit here with all these common people." Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to Rayan Review 2.0 for more real, emotional HOA stories. The thing is, while Karen was having her meltdown about not having a private cabin, about having to be around regular people, about how her expensive handbag and designer scarf somehow entitled her to special treatment, she failed to notice the elderly man sitting quietly 3 rows back, Robert Morrison, 82 years old, wearing a faded military jacket covered in service medals, his hands trembling slightly as he held a photograph of a woman who'd been dead for 5 years. And he was traveling in that same coach car to visit her grave at the National Cemetery, never once complaining despite the fact that his war injuries made sitting in those economy seats genuinely painful. James noticed, though, because good people always notice suffering, and he'd already quietly arranged to help Bobby with his duffel bag, had brought him extra water, had checked on him 3 times during the journey, treating him with the respect that heroes deserve, while Karen treated everyone around her like servants unworthy of breathing her air. "Ma'am," James said again, his voice still patient but with an edge of steel underneath, "I need you to return to your seat and lower your voice. You're disturbing the other passengers." But Karen's response was to laugh, actually laugh, saying, "Disturbing them? They should be grateful to witness someone with class and standards. Maybe they'll learn something." The young mother sitting across the aisle, Sarah Martinez, holding her 8-month-old daughter who'd finally fallen asleep after crying for an hour, felt her baby jolt awake at Karen's screaming. And the look of exhaustion and despair on Sarah's face as her daughter started wailing again was something that would haunt anyone with a functioning conscience. That's when James Chen did something that nobody expected. He pulled out his conductor's radio, made a call, and within 2 minutes, the assistant conductor arrived with a tablet. And James said calmly, "Mrs. Whitmore, I've been reviewing our records, and it appears there's been a booking error." Karen's face lit up with vindication. "Finally! Someone with sense! Now show me to my private cabin." But James continued, his voice clear and carrying through the now silent coach car. "The error is that someone accidentally booked a first-class cabin holder in coach seating. And since you're so concerned about proper treatment and respect, I'm going to make this right. If you're feeling this story, hit that like button and share this video to support Rayan Review 2.0. Karen was practically vibrating with smug satisfaction, already grabbing her designer purse, when James turned to Bobby Morrison and said with genuine respect in his voice, "Sir, Mr. Morrison, I apologize for the error. You should have been in cabin 7A from the start. Your military service entitles you to complimentary first-class accommodation on this route, and I'm deeply sorry we didn't catch this sooner." The entire coach car went absolutely silent. You could have heard a pin drop on that blue-patterned carpet, and Karen's face went through about 17 different shades of red and purple as she realized what was happening. Bobby looked up with tears in his pale blue eyes. his weathered face showing confusion and gratitude. "Son, I can't afford first class. I just needed to get to the cemetery." But James gently helped him stand, his voice warm and firm. "Sir, Amtrak's Military Appreciation Program covers this. It's the absolute least we can do for your service. And besides, you'll have a proper bed to rest those legs, a private bathroom, and nobody will bother you." And as James guided Bobby toward the front of the car, past Karen, who was standing there with her mouth open like a fish gasping for air, the entire coach section erupted in spontaneous applause. Karen tried to sputter something about, "Well, I should get upgraded too," but James turned to her with a look that could freeze hell itself and said clearly, "Mrs. Whitmore, you will return to your assigned seat immediately, or I will have station security remove you at the next stop for disturbing the peace and harassing staff. Your choice takes 5 seconds." And for the first time in probably her entire adult life, Karen Whitmore was absolutely speechless. The beautiful thing is, the story doesn't end there. As James helped Bobby down the aisle toward the first-class cabins, carrying his old duffel bag with care, Bobby turned and looked at Karen. And instead of anger or judgment, his expression was just sad, and he said in his quiet, trembling voice, "Ma'am, I spent 3 years in Vietnam watching boys younger than my grandson die in mud, and you know what I learned? The only thing that separates us common people from people like you is that we still remember how to be human. Want to hear more life-changing HOA tales every week? Subscribe to Rayan Review 2.0 and never miss the next twist." Those words hit Karen like a physical blow, and as Bobby disappeared into the first-class section with James, Sarah with her baby gave Karen the coldest look of disappointment. Another passenger quietly moved their bag so Karen couldn't sit near them, and she was left standing there in her expensive clothes and designer accessories, surrounded by people who now saw her for exactly what she was. Someone so desperate to feel superior that she'd forgotten basic human decency. The train rolled on through those beautiful autumn landscapes, the leaves blazing gold and crimson outside the windows, and Karen sat in her coach seat in complete silence for the rest of the journey. No phone calls to her senator husband, no more demands, just quiet, and if you looked carefully, you might have seen mascara-tinged tears running down her foundation-caked face as the reality of her behavior finally penetrated her armor of entitlement. Here's the part that makes this story truly beautiful. When the train pulled into the station 3 hours later, James was helping Bobby disembark, making sure he had a taxi arranged to the cemetery, and Karen watched from her window as James handed Bobby what looked like money, though Bobby protested, and James said something that made the old veteran smile and salute, a gesture James returned with precision and respect. Later, Sarah, the young mother, posted about the incident on social media, not to shame Karen specifically, but to praise James and highlight how veterans often travel unnoticed and unappreciated in our society. And the post went viral, reaching over 3 million people, and Amtrak ended up giving James a commendation. But more importantly, they implemented a better system to identify and honor military personnel traveling on their trains. As for Karen, well, someone recognized her from Sarah's viral video. Her distinctive burgundy outfit and dramatic scene were hard to forget. And soon her husband, the senator's office, was flooded with calls, not complaints about train staff, but questions about whether his wife's behavior reflected his values, and in an interesting twist of fate, he ended up sponsoring a bill to increase funding for veteran travel assistance programs, perhaps hoping to offset the damage his wife had caused to his reputation. The real ending, though, the one that matters, came 2 weeks later when James Chen received a letter at the station. It was from Bobby Morrison, written in shaky handwriting, thanking him for the kindness, explaining that he'd made it to his wife's grave, had told her about the good man on the train, and enclosed was a photograph of Bobby in his younger days, standing next to his beautiful wife, both of them smiling in their military uniforms. And on the back, Bobby had written, "Real class isn't about money or status. It's about how you treat people when you have no reason to be kind. You have more class in your little finger than some folks have in their whole body." Thanks for watching Rayan Review 2.0, where every story teaches a lesson. Like, share, and subscribe for more emotional neighborhood dramas, because the truth is, We live in a world where people like Karen think that volume equals validity, where expensive clothes are confused with valuable character, where the word common is used as an insult instead of a beautiful reminder that we're all part of the same human family. But then there are people like James who quietly do the right thing without needing applause, and veterans like Bobby who carry unimaginable pain with dignity, and tired mothers like Sarah who just want their babies to sleep. And these are the people who make the world actually work, who hold society together with their compassion and patience and basic human decency. So the next time you're on a train or a plane or standing in line at the grocery store, remember that everyone around you is fighting battles you know nothing about, carrying grief you can't see, deserving respect regardless of their ticket class or outfit brand or social status. Because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to get somewhere, physically or emotionally. And the measure of your character isn't found in demanding what you think you deserve. It's found in giving others what they've earned through their sacrifice, their kindness, their simple existence as fellow human beings. And that's a lesson worth learning before we all reach our final station.